Hey everybody, welcome to another HBCU conversation here on HBCU Game Day. And this is something kind of new because we're living in a new world right now. So we don't have games that we can go out to and track meets and baseball games. So we're kind of in the studio for the foreseeable future, and we're just talking to everyone that we can in the HBCU universe. So whenever you start something new, you always reach out to your friends. So one of my good friends here, L'Tona Lamonte, she's the head coach at Winston-Salem State University for girls basketball. And a long time ago, like so long ago that only you remember, I hosted or emceed one of your talent shows when you were a student at Winston-Salem State. So you and I go way, 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 way back.
Yes, sir. Way back. Freshman year, 1995.
Wow.
I must say that I am still proud of everything that you've accomplished and everything you've done. Because even when I was a student here, we admired your tenacity and how hard you worked to make sure that the field you were going into would be prepared for what they were about to receive, you and your knowledge.
Well, I'll tell you what, I haven't had a real job my entire life, so I've been fooling them here for this long. Coach, you have a real job right now because you are a leader on campus with your women's program. Tell me what it's like right now, because, or tell me this, normally, if we didn't have this whole coronavirus thing happening, what would you be doing right now that you can't do right now?
Preparing for postseason and making sure that we develop the young ladies to be better than they were last year. That was very helpful. We had a couple of players this past season that went from averaging 5 minutes a game to next thing you know, they're at 25 minutes a game. And it's because of postseason work. It's also a chance for us, too, to get better grade-wise because, when you're in season and our season is a full year, the young ladies have to come back and get caught back up with work. So this is a time for us to catch up in the schoolwork and then also for them to catch up and be better athletically. So not being able to have that access, it kind of is challenging because now the players are at home and you are praying that while they're at home, they're all logging on to the computer and answering professors' emails and, turning in work via social media, because some professors have went through social media to try to contact some of the students. So it's been interesting, just a different dynamic.
How much of that do you allow yourself to worry about, or are you calling your players every day? Like, how are you handling it?
So at first I wanted to, and then I had to calm down and realize that sometimes you can't control the uncontrollables. So what I've been doing is we have a group chat, and we have been dropping messages throughout the group chat to make sure that the girls are checking their emails and also letting us know if they are on campus so we can make sure that they're eating, one, and that two, we're their first alert just in case something were to happen while they were here.
Now, look, I understand the coronavirus is the most important thing right now, and I'm not trying to downplay it at all. But still, you have a job to do, and you have concerns about your program when things get back to normal and how your girls will respond. Gyms aren't a great place to be right now. Do you worry about how they're staying in shape and how they're going to be able to still kind of express themselves through basketball now that options are a lot more limited than they were just a week ago?
Well, I won't be downplaying the coronavirus, but now every athlete is on the same playing field. And I think right now it's all about how bad do you want it. And like I told the young ladies when we finished the last game, we made it to the semifinals. Was that good enough? Because if it wasn't, then what are you going to do to take us over the hump? And so now is going to be the time when the young ladies decide, okay, I want more than or better than. There's nothing wrong with taking a ball and dribbling in the house. There's nothing wrong with taking a ball and dribbling outside. I used to tell them all the time, you can perfect your shot by laying in bed and just shooting it up in the air. If it comes back down to you, that's a great shot. If it goes every other way, then you got to figure out how can I make it come straight back down to me. So this is a chance for them to now figure out ways to be creative. You can even take jump ropes. If you don't have a jump rope, you can go outside and pretend that you're jumping rope. So, I always tell players, every excuse you give me, I can give you something that could kind of baffle what you're saying. So the only excuse you can make is that you didn't want it. You just wanted to lay down and, do Netflix and chill. So, but you can find a way to get better in everything.
Coach Lamonte, remind me of your hometown again. Where are you from?
I am from Winston-Salem, North
Okay, you're
Carolina.
right. You're right there from Winston. Okay, so you and I, grew up in roughly the same era. I'm sure you played basketball on dirt, on concrete, on asphalt. So I'm sure you have a lot of stories about just getting out there wherever you can with the basketball, and it still works that way.
It does. Let me tell you, our concrete, because I grew up in Piedmont Circle before moving over to Happy Hill Gardens, and our concrete used to lift up. And so if you wanted to become a better basketball player, you had to learn how to dribble on, high rising concrete. You couldn't lose the ball. And so that was the one thing I could attest to, that I could handle the rock because of, the challenges and the pitfalls we may have had. If it hits the wrong crack, it's going to go straight forward. It won't come right back to where you were dribbling. And so, I tell the girls that all the time. Sometimes you got to take advantage of your opportunities. And your opportunity might not be the same as someone else's. Someone else might have an outdoor basketball goal. It's okay if you just have like a carton that you got outside that you're shooting into. Back in the day, we used to shoot in a trash can in class and, act like you were Michael Jordan and won, nobody fouled you. But when you went on the court, you had that same type of, mentality, because a lot of people don't understand. Sometimes it's just visioning. If you envision yourself being successful while you're playing and while you're doing things, when you get those moments, you got to take advantage of them.
I tell you, growing up, being and some of my cousins had some of our best basketball games on a milk carton that was nailed to a tree and a bicycle rim. So,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just like football. I don't know if you used to do it, but when you would take the piece of paper and create a football, and you'd have to kick it into the field goal, and people would be moving the field goal on you.
Oh, I got in trouble for doing that in church. So yeah.
Oh God. I have to tell the Lord, thank you. I couldn't do that in church. That was different.
Yeah, one of those field goals went a little too high one time, and it was that was all she wrote. That was all she wrote. This year was so incredible. One thing I talk to about my team a lot is, and I'm just guilty, so I'm just going to be forthright here, is that we have to be intentional about covering more and more girls basketball, because it's easy just to get there at 7:00 and cover the guys game. But this year, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the line, I think this year I sense more excitement just from games that I watched. It was either equal or maybe a little bit more on the women's side. The game this year in HBCU basketball for women's hoops, it was really outstanding.
Oh, no, I agree with you. When I first took over Winston-Salem State about 4 years ago, we would have around 200 people in the stands. And I didn't understand that, because when I played here, we would have the whole football team would be there and other sports and people that were cheering. And so, we made sure intentionally we went around to the students, got to know them, went back to some of the alums to get them to come out. And so the one thing we would always state to a lot of fans is that, with the women's game, we may not be above the rim, but we're going to play the game, fundamentally. So you'll see those jump stops and bounce passes. You'll see the girls that can take high percentage shots, that are actually running offenses. And that makes a difference, because a lot of fans, especially the older fans, know basketball. Like, it's amazing when the games are over and I walk the stands and say, thank you for coming. I get lessons from a lot of these guys who played here for Big House, for Coach Big House, or that were managers or that were coaches. And the things they see and the things they tell me are very accurate. Not a lot of schools can have that same type of passion in the stands where they're telling you, okay, look, this is what you did wrong, or, hey, this was good. Why don't you think about doing it this way? So, now being able to have so many people in the stands that understand basketball, they're loving the way the women's game is played, because it's played similar to the way they played or how they coached. And, that makes a difference, because men can see it, and women. And so it just made me excited. It's a family atmosphere. One thing that I get on my players about is cussing. And then, even myself, I try not to do that as well. And if we do, we all do push-ups, so that's why I looked a little swole by the end of the season. But, we have to be intentional to the crowd we're trying to attract. And then even our girls, they're a part of everything else besides basketball. They're on campus. They're in sororities. They're a part of clubs and organizations. And that makes the difference, because now the students feel like they can touch you. They feel like they know you. And that helps our game grow.
Wow! You really had an outstanding year. It ended with the semifinal run. I always make a note at every CIAA tournament. The team that made it to the semifinals is always a team that you want to watch next year. I know you don't want to be satisfied with that, but was there a little bit of satisfaction as far as a litmus test of progress for your team this year?
I think that's a really good question because, as a coach, you're never satisfied. And I think I'm so hard on these players. I'm never satisfied that I did at least mention that in the semifinals after we lost. And I told them how proud I was of them because with all the adversity they had to face throughout the season, when you lose your top scorer, and then she comes back 7 weeks later and then you find out a couple of games into it, no, she can't go. And then when you lose your second leading scorer for a while, people start to doubt and the players started doubting. But what it did is it made everyone step up. And so then when we went down with 8 players, we were still holding everybody accountable. And then all of a sudden, the week before the tournament, we had 10 players that were actually healthy to play. And I just feel like that last week leading into the tournament was like the strongest and the healthiest we had been. But we just ran out of energy, ran out of steam. Some of the shape, we were not in great shape because we were playing, so few people that then we were asking people to step up and do more. Those are things we got to work on for next season. But I have to say, I was very proud of the team's effort. Am I excited about next year? I think every coach is. But the thing is, now you have to figure out how do we do more? How do we get better? And it's going to start this summer. Like I tell the girls all the time, the spring will ask you, what did you do, in the summer? Because pretty much what I did in the fall is what the coach had me do. But what did you do on your own to prepare us for this moment? And so that's going to be the thing that we're excited. And we hope that the young ladies come back with that type of mindset.
One thing I always wonder about, we hear a lot of stories about men's basketball. And so, we hear about the coaches and they're always referred to, or in many cases at least, like a second father or this coach was like my dad because my dad wasn't there. On the women's side, for female coaching women's hoops, do you get that feeling? Do people tell you that a lot, like you're the second mom? Is it a direct correlation like the same stories you hear for men's basketball?
Yeah, I think it's a little different. When you think of men's basketball, you have a lot of players that didn't grow up with their father around. You don't hear too many women's basketball players that didn't grow up with their mom around. And so, when I was in high school at one point in time, I used to always get, man, you're like a mother figure. And then it became a big sister role. So here in the college level, I get more so you're my big sister, more so than you're my mom, but I get respected like a mother. But I keep hearing more of, man, it's like having a big sister. I can come and talk to you about anything. You make good decisions. You're telling me good advice. And I think sometimes it hinders women coaches that are coaching women. And this is just my opinion. So, don't put this out in the universe that this is what all women go through. As a black woman, I find it harder with me coaching other black women because, for one, a lot of them were not coached by women and a lot of them were not coached by black women. And then sometimes you have to break it down that, no, I'm not your equal. You're still going to respect and understand what we're trying to do. Whereas, when I was at the other institutions, the PWIs, I didn't have that. I had girls that were so excited to see me because it wasn't that many of us around. And so when you're at an HBCU and you have young ladies that's only been coached by men or white men, they're now having to learn a new normal of how do I respect this woman? And so in a way, I am like a mother figure, but to them, I'm more of a sister figure because we're so equal. And that's the main thing that I go through.
Wow, pretty interesting stuff. Well, thank you very much. That's the head coach of Winston-Salem State University women's basketball, L'Tona Lamonte. An old classmate of mine, although she was a little younger. I was like a senior, she was like a freshman, but it's always good when you can call up your friends when you're starting new projects. HBCU Conversations right here on HBCU Game Day. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.